It's really quite amazing when you think about it, how much more control we seem to be getting over our own health, often without even leaving the house.
Hmm.
Smartwatches, tracking sleep, devices checking on chronic conditions. It feels like monitoring health from home is, well, it's just exploding, isn't it?
It really is. And to get a proper handle on just how big this shift is, we've been digging into the Global Remote Patient Monitoring Devices Market Report 2025.
Right.
So the plan today is basically to pull out the key insights, give you the clearest possible view of where this market stood in 2025, and importantly, where it looks like it's heading through to 2033.
And this report, it covers a lot of ground. Yeah, we're talking market size, growth
Oh,
rates.
yeah. Market size, growth, the regional picture, who the main companies are, what's pushing the market forward, what might hold it back, key trends.
Yeah.
It's all in there.
Okay, so let's set the stage. That 2025 number, what was the global market size then?
So according to the report, back in 2025, the market for these remote patient monitoring devices hit USD 62.39 billion globally.
62 billion. Okay, that's already pretty substantial. But the growth projection, that's what really caught my eye.
That's the kicker, isn't it? The projection is that by 2033, it's expected to reach USD 275.5 billion.
Wow, 275 billion.
Yeah. And that works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAG, of 20.4% over that period.
A 20% CAGR year after year. That's huge.
It really is. That kind of growth suggests, a really fundamental change in how we approach healthcare.
Okay, so 20.4% growth until 2033. That's, like you said, it's not just ticking up, it's taking off. What's the main thing driving that kind of speed?
Well, the report is pretty clear on this. The biggest factor seems to be the rising number of people with chronic diseases all over the world.
Oh.
Things like diabetes, heart disease, COPD, they need constant monitoring, right? And these remote devices, they offer a really powerful tool for managing these conditions better. It can improve patients' lives and potentially ease the burden on clinics and hospitals, too.
That makes a lot of sense. Getting that continuous care without always needing a clinic visit seems like a win for everyone involved. So it's global, but I imagine the picture varies quite a bit region by region. Where was it biggest in 2025, and where's the fastest growth expected?
Good question. So in 2025, North America was definitely the leader. They had over 40% of the market share.
40%, okay.
Yeah, that translated to about USD 23.08 billion. And their projected growth through 2033 is still very strong, around 19.0% CAGR.
And within North America, the U.S.?
US was the powerhouse, yes.
Yeah.
USD 18.21 billion market size, growing at about 18.8%. Canada was next, USD 2.77 billion, but with a slightly higher growth rate, 19.8%. And Mexico at USD 2.10 billion, growing at 19.5%.
So established healthcare, tech adoption, that probably explains the lead.
Yeah, that seems likely. Their existing infrastructure and maybe a faster uptake of new tech certainly plays a role.
Okay, North America leads. How did Europe compare in 2025?
Europe was significant too, holding over 30% of the market. That was about USD 18.09 billion. And their growth projection is also pretty high, 19.3% CAGR. Within Europe, the report flags the UK about USD 3.04 billion market, but growing faster at 20.1% CAGR. And Germany, which was actually the largest single market in Europe at USD 3.58 billion, growing at 19.5%.
So similar drivers, perhaps? Good healthcare systems, government support for digital health?
Exactly. Well-developed systems and increasing policy support definitely helped there too.
Okay, so North America and Europe are the big established players with strong growth. But I suspect Asia-Pacific might be where things get really interesting in the next few years.
You are absolutely spot on. APAC in 2025 had around 23% market share, which was about USD 14.97 billion.
Okay.
But, and this is the key point, it's projected to have the fastest growth, a CAGR of 23.5% between 2025 and 2033.
23.5%. Yeah.
And leading that charge are China, with a market size of USD 6.29 billion and 23% growth. And India. India's growth is particularly notable. Its market was smaller, USD 1.50 billion, but the projected CAGR is a massive 25.4%.
Wow, over 25% for India. That's a real game changer, isn't it? Any thoughts on why?
Well, you've got a huge population, obviously. Plus, increasing access to technology, smartphones, internet, and perhaps a really strong need for more accessible healthcare, especially outside the major cities.
Makes sense. Okay, what about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa, how do they fit in?
Right, so South America had just over 5% share in 2025, about USD 2.37 billion. growing at a solid 20.8% CAGR. Brazil is the key market there. USD 1.01 billion, growing even faster at 21.4%.
Okay.
The Middle East was smaller, around 2% share, USD 2.5 billion, but also strong growth, 21.0% CAGR. Saudi Arabia and the UAE were highlighted.
And Africa.
Africa held about 1% share, USD 1.37 billion in 2025. The growth rate there is a bit lower, projected at 16.1% CAGR. South Africa is the biggest market mentioned.
So that slightly lower growth in Africa might reflect maybe infrastructure challenges or tech access compared to other places.
That seems like a reasonable assumption, yes. Infrastructure and access probably play a role in the different growth speeds.
Okay, so it's definitely global, but with different speeds. Still, the overall trend is clearly upwards. We've mentioned chronic diseases, regions. Let's dig into the why a bit more. What are the core things really pushing this market forward?
Yeah, the report highlights a few key drivers. Number one is probably the advancements in the tech itself, specifically wearable technology and wireless connectivity.
Right.
Devices are getting smarter, smaller, easier to use. They can collect more kinds of data more accurately and send it reliably. Think about, those continuous glucose monitors or smartwatches that can do an ECG.
Yeah, the tech isn't just improving, it's becoming almost seamless, part of everyday life for some people. What else is driving it?
Government initiatives and, crucially, reimbursement policies are also a big factor.
The money side.
Exactly. When governments or insurance companies actually support and pay for remote monitoring, it makes it much easier for both patients and doctors to adopt it. It lowers the barrier to entry.
Policy is always huge in healthcare.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Is there another major driver?
Yes, demographics. The simple fact that the population in many parts of the world is aging.
The growing elderly population.
Precisely. Older adults often have more chronic conditions, and they can really benefit from being monitored safely at home. It helps maintain independence, manage health. It's a good fit.
Okay, so better tech, supportive policies, and demographic shifts. Sounds like a powerful combination. But surely it's not all smooth sailing. Are there, speed bumps, restraints mentioned in the report?
Yes, definitely. The report flags a couple of main challenges. One is cost.
Always cost.
Yep. The initial cost of the devices, plus the infrastructure needed, and ongoing maintenance. That can be a significant hurdle, especially for getting it adopted really widely across all socioeconomic groups. Things need to get more cost-effective.
Okay, so cost is one barrier. What's the other big one?
Data privacy and security concerns. This is huge.
Understandably.
Yeah, these devices are collecting incredibly sensitive personal health data. So making sure that data is secure, kept private, is absolutely paramount. Any kind of breach, or even just the fear of a breach, could really damage trust and slow things down.
Absolutely critical. You can't build this future without trust in the data security. Okay, so we know the drivers and restraints. What about trends? Looking beyond 2025, what's shaping the future of this market?
Well, one really exciting trend is the growing integration of AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning.
AI, of course.
Right. AI can analyze all the data pouring in from these devices, look for patterns, maybe even predict problems before they become serious. It opens the door for much more personalized, proactive care. Imagine getting an alert before something goes wrong.
That could genuinely revolutionize preventative medicine, couldn't it? What other trends are emerging?
Another big one is just the sheer proliferation of wearable sensors and what they call IoT-enabled devices.
IoT, Internet of Things.
Exactly. Devices connected to the internet, sharing data. We're seeing more and more sophisticated smartwatches, fitness trackers, specialized biosensors, tracking all sorts of health metrics continuously. And they're becoming, like you said earlier, much more integrated into daily life.
So it's expanding beyond just the purely medical devices into consumer tech that also gathers health data.
Precisely. And the third key trend is the expansion of telehealth infrastructure overall. Remote monitoring doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? It's often a key part of a bigger telehealth picture, virtual doctor visits, remote diagnostics, that kind of thing. A strong telehealth system supports and enables effective remote monitoring.
Okay, so AI insights, connected wearables becoming commonplace, and better telehealth infrastructure. It really paints a picture of healthcare becoming much more connected, much more remote. The report also breaks down the market in different ways, right? By type, application, end user.
It does, yes. If you look at it by the type of offering, right now the actual products, the devices themselves, measuring heart rate, blood pressure, glucose, etc., they make up the biggest slice of the pie.
Okay.
But, and this is interesting, the fastest growing segment is services.
Services, like analyzing the data.
Exactly. Data analytics to make sense of it all, cloud storage for the huge amounts of data,
Yeah.
and also virtual consultations, the human support side. This shift towards services really underlines that people want more than just data. They want insights, support, personalized care.
Yeah, the raw data is one thing, but making it actionable, that's where the real value lies.
Right.
What about the applications? Which health conditions are using this tech the most?
Well, currently, cardiovascular diseases represent the largest application segment.
Heart conditions.
Yes, largely because they're so common globally, and continuous monitoring is often really critical for managing them effectively. But another area growing very quickly is weight management and fitness monitoring.
Ah, the wellness side.
Right.
Oh.
Driven by just a growing focus everywhere on preventative health, wellness, staying fit.
So it really covers the whole spectrum, from serious illness management to proactive wellness. And who are the main end users? Who's actually using this stuff?
In 2025, the report says hospital-based patients were the largest group. Think about patients in intensive care or post-surgery needing constant monitoring.
Makes sense for critical care.
But again, the fastest growing segment is home care.
People using it at home.
Exactly. Driven by that preference for receiving care at home, especially for managing long-term chronic conditions and supporting the elderly population to stay independent longer.
So a definite shift towards enabling more care outside the hospital walls. Now, in a market growing this fast, it must be pretty competitive. Who are the key companies involved?
Oh, absolutely. The report stresses it's a highly competitive market, lots of companies are involved, and the key strategies seem to be constant innovation, developing better tech, and forming strategic partnerships.
Partnerships to broaden their offerings or reach.
Precisely. The report mentioned a couple of examples from around 2024, like Apollo Hospital in India teamed up with a company called Life Signs, which does AI-powered health monitoring.
Oh.
And another one, Vesta Healthcare partnered with Medical Guardian. Their goal was to create a more integrated service for chronic care management and remote monitoring, specifically aimed at people on Medicaid and Medicare in the U.S.
Interesting. Those sound like partnerships that could really make a difference in access and integration.
Yeah.
And who are some of the big names, the major players overall in this space?
The report doesn't rank them strictly, but it lists several prominent companies known for innovation and market leadership. You see names like Shenzhen, Mindray Biomedical Electronics, Nihon Kodum Corporation, Omron Corporation, Koenig like Philips NV, Abbott, Medtronic, Masimo. Quite a few well-known healthcare and tech companies.
Right, some very familiar names there. So wrapping this up, after this deep dive, the big picture seems crystal clear. This remote patient monitoring market, it's not just some niche thing, it's on this massive global growth path.
Definitely.
Driven by better technology, the sheer need created by chronic diseases, and this growing demand for healthcare that's more convenient, more accessible, especially for older populations.
Precisely. The data from this 2025 report really paints a powerful picture. It's a market that's fundamentally transforming how healthcare is delivered and managed worldwide.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. As these technologies keep evolving, and as we all get, frankly, more comfortable with monitoring our health at home, how is that going to fundamentally reshape healthcare as we've known it? What does it mean long-term for, say, patient empowerment? And what about that traditional relationship between a healthcare provider and a patient? How might that change?
Yeah, those are really big questions, aren't they? About access, about delivery, about how much control patients have. It's definitely worth thinking about the specific ways this is playing out, maybe in different conditions or different parts of the world, as this whole field keeps moving so incredibly fast.